نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد بسم الله. Today inshallah we will continue from verse number 45 of Surah Sad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. واذكر عبادنا إبراهيم وإسحاق ويعقوب أولي الأيدي والأبصار. And remember our servants Ibrahim, Ishaq and Yaqub, those of strength and religious vision. So ulil aidi means ashabul quwwati fit ta'ati, people who are firm in their obedience. And wal absar means al basirat fit deen, the people having religious foresight. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is praising here these prophets due to their strength in obedience and worship. And the same is praiseworthy for believers, that they should strive to be strong and not take a lax approach to their worship and obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Narrated by Abu Hurairah radhiyallahu anhu, Muslim, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Al-mu'minu al-qawiyyu khayrun wa ahabbu ila Allahi min al-mu'min al-dha'ifi. A strong believer is better and is more lovable to Allah than a weak believer. We are facing a particular situation and we have two paths. We should make sure that we take the path that is more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and will take us more closer to Him in obedience. It's okay to take an easy path, actually prefer to take an easy path, as long as it falls within the guidelines of Sharia. Otherwise, even if it's difficult, you have to do the right thing, which is be strong and firm in your faith and take the appropriate action that makes you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِنَّا أَخْلَصْنَاهُمْ بِخَالِصَةٍ ذِكْرَ الدَّارِ. Indeed, we chose them for an exclusive quality, remembrance of the home of the hereafter. So أَخْلَصْنَاهُمْ بِخَالِصَةٍ, meaning خَصَصْنَاهُمْ بِخَصَّةٍ عَظِيمَةٍ. We chose them for a great attribute. And what is that? ذِكْرَ الدَّارِ. تَذَكُّرُ الْآخِرِ فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ. That remembrance of the hereafter in their hearts. So these prophets have been granted a focus, a remembrance of the hereafter in their hearts, such that any situation, any desire that comes to them would not deter them from forgetting the outcome of that particular action in the hereafter. So ad-dar literally means home. And it is interesting that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to akhirah as dar. And in fact, it is reminding us that the true home of a believer is the hereafter. We can relate it to our own experience in this world. Imagine you're traveling to a land far away from your home country and you have to live there for a few months. And while you are in that foreign place, you might, being new to the town, visit their tourist attractions, you enjoy the landscape, the architecture of that place. But soon you start missing your family, your friends, and even your home. And you long for getting back to your home and sleep in your bed. That same analogy applies here in this verse. We should consider ourselves as travelers in this world and not forget that our true home is a hereafter to which all of us have to return. And prophets had this perfect attribute always in their mind, that they have to remain focused on the hereafter. As we know from a narration narrated by Abdullah bin Umar radhiyallahu anhu in Bukhari, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Kun fi dunya ka'annaka gharibun aw 'abiru sabilin." Be in this world as if you are a stranger or a traveler. So keep thinking that you are away from your true home, which is the hereafter, and whatever you're doing is just in transit where you are, and it will lead you in the end back to where you really belong, which is the hereafter. وَإِنَّهُمْ عِنْدَنَا لَمِنَ الْمُصْطَفِينَ الْأَخْيَارُ. And indeed they are to us among the chosen and outstanding. وَاذْكُرْ إِسْمَاعِيلَ وَالْيَسَعَ وَذَا الْكِفْلِ وَكُلٌّ مِّنَ الْأَخْيَارِ. And remember Ismail, Yasa, and Dhul Kifl, and all are among the outstanding. So Prophet Al-Yasa was a prophet of Bani Israel. And he has been mentioned twice in Quran, in Surah Al-An'am and also in Surah Sad. He was actually a cousin of Ilyas al-Islam and then became prophet after him. Another person mentioned here is Dhul-Kifl. And literally, Dhul-Kifl means possessor of giving double in return to a favor. And he's mentioned in Surah Anbiya and Surah Sad. And generally, Dhul-Kifl is counted among the 25 prophets mentioned in the Quran. But some scholars believe he was not a prophet, rather a very pious person, and Allah knows best. هذا ذكر وإن للمتقين لحسن مآب. This is a reminder, and indeed for the righteous is a good place of return. لحسن مآب meaning حسن مرجع في الآخرة, a great place of return in the hereafter. Next, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes the characteristics of this great place in the hereafter. جنات عدن مفتحة لهم الأبواب, gardens of perpetual residence whose doors will be open to them. The paradise will have gardens of eternal living, and entrance to these gardens will be open to believers only. متكئين فيها يدعون فيها بفاكهة كثيرة وشراب. Reclining within them, they will call therein for abundant fruit and drink. People in paradise will be reclining on chairs, and they will be served whatever they wish from fruits and drinks. وعندهم قاصرات الطرف أتراب. And with them will be women limiting their glances and of equal age. So قاصرات الطرف لا ينظرن إلى غير أزواجهن. Chaste women who will not look at anyone else other than their spouse. And atrab bin musawiyat as-sinni, those who are equal in age. هذا ما توعدون ليوم الحساب. This is what you, meaning the righteous, are promised for the day of account. إن هذا لرزقنا ما له من نفاد. Indeed, this is our provision. For it, there is no depletion. So nafad means inqita', discontinuity. So these bounties are prepared for the righteous believers on the day of judgment, and then there is going to be no reduction or depletion in them, even after perpetual use. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the endless nature of the blessings of paradise in many places in the Quran. So in Surah Hud, verse number 108, عطاء غير مجذوذ, a gift without an end. And then in Surah Inshiqaq, verse 25, لَهُمْ أَجْرٌ غَيْرُ مَمْنُونَ, for them there is a reward that will never come to an end. So let's review verses 45 to 54. One should strive to be strong in obedience and worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the true home of a believer is the hereafter. All the time spent in this world is like a traveler passing through a town in his journey. And then the everlasting rewards of paradise are mentioned in these verses, and they're only promised to the believers. هذا وإن للطاغين لشر مآب. This is so, but indeed of the transgressors is an evil place of return. After describing the final abode of righteous believers, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the painful punishment awaiting sinners and disbelievers. La sharra ma'ab means aswa'u marji'in fil akhirah, the worst of all the places of return in the hereafter. Jahannama yaslawnaha fabi'sal mihad, which they will enter to burn, and wretched is the resting place. Yaslawnaha meaning yadkhulunaha, they'll be entering into it. Al-mihad means al-firash, resting place. هذا فليذوقوه حميم وغساق. This, so let them taste it, is boiling water and foul pus. So hamim is ma'un shadidul hararati, boiling water. And ghassaq has two meanings. It could mean sadidun sa'ilun min ajsadi ahli nar, meaning pus flowing from the bodies of the dwellers of hell as they go through punishment. Their bodies will be rotting, and all this fluid, filthy liquid, will be coming out of their bodies. That's one meaning. Other meaning could be huwa az-zamhariru yuhriquhum bibardihi, that ghassaq refers to extreme cold that will burn their body. So similar to how extreme fire can burn their bodies, we know that there is burns that happen from even extreme cold. وَآخَرُ مِنْ شَكْلِهِ أَزْوَاجٌ, and other punishments of its type in various kinds. آخر means عذاب آخر, different types of punishments, other punishments. Min shaklihi, min mithlihi, similar to it, meaning what has been mentioned, similar to it would be other punishments. And azwaj means asnaf, types. So hell has many types of punishment. And some of them are described in the Quran and Hadith in detail. First, we should know that there are multiple levels of hell, and hypocrites will be in the lowest level, as it comes in Surah Hijr, verse 44. لَهَا سَبْعَةُ أَبْوَابٍ لِكُلِّ بَابٍ مِّنْهُمْ جُزْءٌ مَقْسُومٌ. It has 7 gates. For each gate, a portion of them has been allotted. So there are 7 levels of hell, and then depending on the severity of punishment, people are entered into different levels. And then in Surah Nisa, verse 145, we learn about munafiqun, which level they will be at. إِنَّ الْمُنَافِقِينَ فِي الدَّرْكِ الْأَسْفَلِ مِنَ النَّارِ. Indeed, the hypocrites will be in the lowest depths of the fire. And then beyond that, there are many verses and narrations regarding the punishments. Those punishments include burning of the skin in hellfire, melting of internal organs of people of hell, chaining of their necks and limbs, dragging them upon face, and scorching their faces. The hellfire would be surrounding them from outside and burning them inside up to their hearts. All of this is mentioned in quite detail in various verses and narrations. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from even getting a slight touch of hellfire and take us directly to Jannah. Ameen. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam wanted to make sure we do not take the matters lightly. He even described the experience of a person who will have the least punishment in hellfire. Narrated by An-Nu'man in Bukhari, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, إن أهون أهل النار عذابا يوم القيامة رجل على أخمص قدميه جمرتان يغلي منهما دماغه. Verily, the most lightly punished of the people of hellfire on the day of resurrection is a man under whose feet are placed 2 coals by which his brain boils. Allahu Akbar. So such will be the punishment of someone who is at the least level of punishment in hellfire. And just with that, his head will be boiling. So he is standing on hot coal, and that is creating such a pain for him. The heat of it is going all the way to his head. Definitely, we cannot even imagine going into hellfire for a small moment, even in the situation of someone who is least punished. But what exactly you need to do in this world, at the very least, so that you're not entering the hellfire? Narrated by Anas bin Malik in Bukhari, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, أن الله يقول لأهون أهل النار عذابا لو أن لك ما في الأرض من شيء كنت تفتدي به قال نعم قال فقد سألتك ما هو أهون من هذا وأنت في صلب آدم ألا تشرك بي فأبيت إلا الشرك. Allah will say to that person of the hellfire who will receive the least punishment, if you had everything on the earth, would you give it as a ransom to free yourself? He will say yes. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, while you were in the backbone of Adam, I asked you much less than that. That is, not to worship others beside me, but you insisted on worshiping others beside me. So shirk is something that will not be forgiven. And whoever has committed shirk, they are definitely to get into hellfire. And out of those people who get in hellfire, if this person was the one getting the least punishment possible in hellfire, he would be determined to give everything in his might, in his wealth that he would have in this world to get himself out of that situation. And yet, all of that wealth or all of that possession that he would have would not help him. And what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala really wanted for this person to do was, while he was in this world, he should have believed in the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that would have saved him from remaining in this situation forever. هذا فوج مقتحم معكم لا مرحبا بهم إنهم صالوا النار. Its inhabitants will say, so the inhabitants of hell will say, this is a troop rushing in with you, no welcome for them, indeed they will burn in the fire. So Fawjun here means Jama'atun min Ahli Nar, a group of people from among the dwellers of hellfire. And Muqtahimun ma'akum min dakhilatun nara ma'akum, they will be forced to enter into hellfire with you. قالوا بل أنتم لا مرحبا بكم أنتم قدمتموه لنا فبئس القرار. They will say, nor you, no welcome for you. Our leaders brought this upon us, and evil is this place to stay in. قالوا ربنا من قدم لنا هذا فزده عذابا ضعفا في النار. They will say, our Lord, whoever brought this upon us, increase for him double the punishment in the hellfire. So ضعفا means مضاعفا, and double the punishment upon them. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here describes the hatred and animosity among the dwellers of hell. As one group enters hellfire and receives another group coming behind him, they revile at each other and even ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make the punishment more severe for the next group. As it comes in Surah Araf, verse 38, كُلَّمَا دَخَلَتْ أُمَّةٌ لَعَنَتْ أُخْتَهَا. Every time a nation enters, it will curse its sister that went before. وَقَالُوا مَا لَنَا لَا نَرَى رِجَالًا كُنَّا نَعُدُّهُم مِّنَ الْأَشْرَارِ. And they will say, why we do not see men whom we used to count among the worst? أَتَّخَذْنَاهُمْ سِخْرِيًّا أَمْ زَاغَتْ عَنْهُمُ الْأَبْصَارُ. Is it because we took them in ridicule, or has our vision turned away from them? So أَتَّخَذْنَاهُمْ سِخْرِيًّا هَلْ تَحْقِيرُنَا لَهُمْ خَطَأٌ. Were we at fault to ridicule them? And زَاغَت means malat, turned away. When people of hellfire see each other, people who are partners in crime in this world, that is, then they revile and they ask for double the punishment. But when they don't find the righteous people along with them in hellfire, then they initially doubt themselves. Were we wrong in making fun of these people? But then right away, they started reassuring themselves with wishful thinking. Perhaps these righteous people are also being punished, but they're just not visible to us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clarifies the matter in another verse where righteous people from paradise then call out to these people in hellfire and reassure them that they got the rewards that they were promised. And that will make the people of hellfire feel even more miserable. So in Surah A'raf, verse 44, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ونادى أصحاب الجنة أصحاب النار أن قد وجدنا ما وعدنا ربنا حقا فهل وجدتم ما وعد ربكم حقا قالوا نعم. And the companions of paradise will call out to the companions of the fire, we have already found what our Lord promised us to be true. Have you found what your Lord promised to be true? They will say yes. Meaning, people who were promised reward in this world, if they remained obedient and worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and be righteous, those rewards were given to them in paradise. And similarly, all the punishments that are mentioned in the verses of Quran and in various narrations, all of those become true for people when they enter hellfire. إن ذلك لحق تخاصم أهل النار. Indeed, that is truth, the quarreling of the people of the fire. Takhasum means jidal, argument, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, indeed, this type of argument will happen among the people of the fire. Let's quickly review verses 55 to 64. Hell has many types of punishments, from scorching fire to boiling water to filthy pus. And dwellers of hell will dispute among themselves and even ask for more severe punishment for each other. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from being in that state. We'll stop here inshallah. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم.